Welcome to this week's session of Noir Alley. Please, lie down on the couch and get comfortable. I'm your doctor, Eddie Muller, and for the next hour or so, we're going to explore the roots of your obsession with film noir. You don't mind me calling it an obsession, do you? We're going to start by watching a motion picture released in January of 1949 called The Dark Past. That seems like a very apt title for a film noir. Wouldn't you agree? So many of these films are about secrets buried in someone's memory. Perhaps there's something in your past that draws you to these films. Maybe unresolved issues from your childhood, or something about the lustrous black and white cinematography that's always haunted you. Or maybe it's just actors like William Holden, 30 years old and handsome as all get out. The fact is, there are just enough crime movie tropes in The Dark Past to qualify it as a film noir. The wrinkle here is that the protagonist, played by Lee J. Cobb, is a police psychiatrist. And wouldn't you know it, he happens to be vacationing at a hunting lodge with his wife and friends when they're all taken hostage by an escaped convict and his gang. The ferocious fugitive is played by Holden, one of the few times he was cast as a bad guy. Although here he's so tortured by recurring nightmares of a traumatic childhood incident, the audience is meant to feel sympathy for him. Frankly, any sympathy we feel has more to do with it being William Holden than in any profundity in the script. In a nutshell, The Dark Past is the petrified forest with psychoanalysis. In fact, the film is a remake, not of The Petrified Forest, but of a 1939 picture, also made at Columbia, called Blind Alley. In that one, Chester Morris played the escaped convict and Ralph Bellamy the professor of psychology. It was based on a play by James Warwick, and in 1939, the psychiatric angle he took was pretty fresh. Though the plot is simple, it took 3 screenwriters to finesse all the psychological stuff into the first script: Michael Blankfort, Philip MacDonald, and Albert Duffy. Blankfort was the ace up the sleeve here, as he'd been a professor at Princeton and a prison psychologist before moving to Hollywood in 1937. Blind Alley was his first screen credit. For the remake, 2 more writers worked on the screenplay, Malvin Wald and Oscar Saul. By the time they got involved, head shrinking was all the rage in Hollywood. For writers, directors, and performers, appointments with popular psychiatrists became as essential as reservations at Chasen's or the Brown Derby. So it's curious to note that in noir, where paranoia was a constant, psychiatrists were most often presented as villains. Characters like Leo G. Carroll in Spellbound, Helen Walker in Nightmare Alley, Vincent Price in Shock, and Jose Ferrer in Whirlpool. Charlatans who use the power of the mind to dupe their clients. More rare were decent psychiatrists like Audrey Totter in High Wall and Lou Ayres in The Dark Mirror. Of course, in Hollywood, those good doctors had a habit of falling in love with their patients, a different kind of ethical breach, one A-OK by Hollywood standards. Well, no chance for romance in today's film, however. In fact, stories from the set suggest the antagonism between Dr. Lee J. Cobb and patient William Holden was real, despite their being longtime colleagues. The actors had played father and son in Holden's breakout picture, 1939's Golden Boy, despite Cobb being only 7 years older. In the role of Dr. Andrew Collins, Cobb displays a calm, needling arrogance, which he kept jabbing Holden with even when the cameras weren't rolling. Co-star Nina Foch recalled having to act as a buffer between them. Of course, the added tension was good for what's essentially a filmed stage play. If you're confined to a single set, you have to make the most of it, and this film does. Art director Carrie Odell and set decorator Frank Tuttle created a rustic split-level cabin that gives director Rudolph Matte and cinematographer Joseph Walker lots of opportunities for dramatic angles to heighten the psychodrama. They also liven things up with some subjective camera techniques and a startling dream sequence clearly conceived by a couple of cinematographers. Walker had been shooting pictures since the silent era and was a go-to cameraman for directors Frank Capra and Howard Hawks. Polish-born Matte was a cinematographer himself before becoming a director in 1947. This was his second feature assignment. He'd follow it up with the 1949 noir classic DOA. Co-starring familiar faces such as Adele Juergens, Stephen Garay, Barry Kroger, and Robert Osterloh, here are William Holden and Lee J. Cobb engaging in a late 40s strain of filmic Freudianism, The Dark Past.